Okay, so today what I thought we'd just quickly look at is the different yarn weights that you can get and the kind of projects that I would knit with each of the yarn weights. I was aware that we've got quite a few new knitters, fairly new knitters in the group, and I thought, you know, this may be useful to you all because I have had a couple of questions about what does 4-ply mean, etc. So I thought I'd just gather a few of my yarns together and then I'll just quickly go through them. So starting at this end, we've got a lace weight. This particular one is Malabrigo lace. It's baby merino. Now lace weight, you can get a weight which is even lighter, even thinner than this one, which I believe is called cobweb. I don't have any of that. I'm not a great lace weight knitter, but I did have this one in my stash because I wanted to knit a lace weight hat with it actually. So this is the finest weight that I've got, and probably, you know, the most common of the very lighter weights. This one, you know, lace weight is traditionally used to make lace shawls, and I know a lot of people do knit lace weight shawls with lace weight yarn, which makes sense. So that's the first weight. We then move up slightly and we've got, now in the UK this traditionally would have been called a 4-ply weight, and you can see it does say 4-ply sock. This is a UK dyed yarn. Now in places like the States this would be called a fingering weight or a sock weight yarn. Now this you can use it for socks and also for shawls. It's excellent for, you can do lace shawls with it, or, you know, whatever type the pattern calls for really. It's a very, very popular weight of yarn and very versatile. You get a lot of bang for your buck, I think you would say, with this type of yarn, because there's so many different projects that you can knit with it. So I've just got another sock weight yarn. So this is the same weight as the one we just saw, but this one is specifically manufactured for socks. It's got the added nylon in it. I have knit socks in yarn that doesn't have nylon, and I wouldn't recommend it. I know people do, but they did get holes in very quickly, so I would always recommend that you do have nylon in your sock yarn. And these self-patterning yarns are really excellent. They're fun to knit with. This particular one, Osterman Step, I've knit with a couple of times, and it's a really lovely yarn to knit with. Ever so soft but very hard wearing. I've not had any problems with the socks that I've knit with that one. And very reasonably priced as well. You know, I think that one was about £8 or £9. So really good value. Now the next weight of yarn is not a very common one in the UK. This is a sport weight yarn. So it's slightly thicker than fingering weight. When you compare them, you can see it's slightly heavier weight yarn. And I've got two examples of it here. This one here is Malabrigo, and it's Malabrigo Arroyo, and it's their sport weight version. The one next to it is the British yarn, Debbie Bliss, and this is Baby Cashmerino. And this one I think is classed as they call it a baby double knitting, which basically means it's a slightly lighter version of a DK, which is effectively what a sport weight is. And I have used this when a pattern calls for a sport weight. I have used it because an actual sport weight, like I said, is not a common weight of yarn that we get in the UK, more so in the States. So that's like the next one up from your fingering or your 4-ply. We then move up to a double knitting. We would call it double knitting weight here in the UK. DK is the shortened version. This one, I would say this is probably one of the most versatile yarn weight that you can get, because there's so many projects you can knit with it. You know, you can knit sweaters and cardigans. You can also do socks. You can do shawls. You can do toys. Really fantastic, and this is a particularly good yarn. I've used this for a lot of projects. Then moving up from DK, we get to a worsted weight. Now again, this is not a common weight of yarn in the UK. My mum wouldn't even know what worsted weight was. It's basically, it's for everybody that's in the UK, a worsted weight is in between a DK and an Aran. This one here is a hand-dyed one. lovely Michelle at Dancing Dog Dye Works. And then the one next to it is a more commercially dyed yarn, which you can get. So you can get quite commonly nowadays in the UK, you can get worsted weight yarn. This one I got from Loop in London, but you can get Cascade 220 is another very common worsted weight yarn, and you can get that very readily now in the UK. And again, I would use these. I use worsted weight for toys. It's excellent for toys, and also for lovely squishy cowls and big thick shawls, hats. You know, it's an incredibly popular weight to use for hats as well. Makes super snuggly hats. And moving on from your worsted weight, you get to an Aran weight. Now this one is a UK brand. Whoops, fell over. This one is an excellent yarn. It's discontinued now actually, but if you can get hold of it, I would say definitely try and get some. I've used it for hats, and I've also knit a jumper in this for me, and it's a lovely yarn to knit with, very soft, washes really nice. So this again, they've been increasing in weight as we've gone along. So this is quite a heavyweight yarn, and traditionally Aran weight was used to knit Aran jumpers as the name implies. But these days, you know, you can use it for a variety of projects, hats, jumpers, you know, whatever you like really. There is another couple of weights after this. I don't have any in my stash at the minute because I don't generally use them. But you would then move on to a chunky. We would call it a chunky here in the UK. So that's, you know, the next one up from an Aran. And then you can also get a super chunky, which is, you know, super thick. I think you would call it a bulky maybe in the United States. But like I say, I don't have any of that in my stash at the minute. So that's just a quick run through of all the different weights that I use commonly, and, you know, just to give you an idea on, you know, what the range of yarns is that you can get. So I hope that was useful.